Your sister merits your bonus, my mom claimed. She's facing hardship. I replied, no, they dispatched 19 texts insisting I transfer $11,000 for her flat. I wrote back, cease messaging me. That night, I sold everything, froze every card, blocked their numbers, and moved to Portugal. By dawn, 92 unanswered rings, for mails from their attorney. Imagine being asked to give away every penny of your hard-earned bonus, not for an emergency, but because your family decided you deserved to. What would you do when family becomes a code word for wallet, and your boundaries are treated like a personal attack? So there's me, Max. I'm 31, the eldest, the one who files everyone's taxes and remembers the Wi-Fi password. I'm the steady one, the spreadsheet with legs, as I sometimes joke, coding boring stuff for a payment company and saving every penny like a squirrel with an anxiety disorder. I run at night, I don't drink much, and, yeah, I've got an Excel sheet for everything. Basically, I'm the designated fixer in my family. Then there's my sister, Lena. She's 27, bright, but in a loud, chaotic way. Big laugh, big gestures, even bigger ideas. She bounces from job to job like you scroll through TikTok. When she calls, it's always, 2 minutes, promise. And then an hour later, I'm Venmoing her because her card randomly declined. Dad's retired, permanently glued to sports, the TV volume cranked so high it shakes the house. Mom's the peacekeeper, which mostly means she avoids uncomfortable truths and tells everyone, especially Lena, exactly what they want to hear. Sunday dinner at my parents' place is a ritual. Meatballs, garlic bread, a prayer that always feels a little too long. I usually show up with a salad, trying to balance things out. This particular Sunday, I walked in, and the table was already set. Dad was on the couch, yelling at a referee on screen. Lena was at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone like it owed her money. Mom hugged me, smelling of laundry detergent and rosemary, a comforting scent that would soon be tinged with something far less pleasant. We sat down, passed dishes, made fake small talk. I was halfway through my second meatball when Mom cleared her throat. She folded her napkin with this almost ceremonial precision, like she was about to deliver a sermon. Your sister deserves your bonus, she said, her voice completely flat. My fork paused, hovering in midair. I glanced at Dad. He didn't even look up. Lena's voice then, all soft and wounded, a tone I knew all too well. It's just until next month. My apartment wants an additional deposit. Stupid policy. It's not policy, Dad muttered under his breath, still not looking away from the TV. It's because you were late twice. Mom shot him a look, silencing him immediately, then turned back to me. 11,000. You have it. She needs it. Family helps family. I stared at the red sauce on my plate. My chest tightened, that familiar clench, like the start of a really steep hill on a run. There's this old picture on the wall, the three of us at the beach. Dad, sunburnt. Lena, holding a kite. Me, in a hat that was definitely too big. Looking at it, I felt 12 again. Sensible. Boring. Useful. Lena leaned forward. Maxie, you got that bonus for, like, fixing fraud or whatever. You barely even celebrate. Let me know. I said it then. Just one word. No. It landed like a dropped glass, shattering the fragile piece. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. Don't be dramatic. Dad finally looked over, a slow, heavy gaze. It's a loan. It's a no, I repeated, louder this time. The air in the room actually changed, thinning and sharpening, like the whole house had tilted on an axis I'd never noticed before. In my family, you don't just say no. You say it, and then you get a round of revisions, negotiations. When I was 18, I worked nights at a grocery store, buying Lena a graphing calculator with my first paycheck because Mom said hers got lost. In college, I skipped spring break to wire 3 months' rent when Dad's consulting check got held up. When Lena decided to switch majors one last time, I covered the extra fees. It was always temporary. It was always urgent. It was always me. I'm not a hero. I told myself that. I was just a very compliant ATM. I kept doing it because it was easier than fighting. And, deep down, a foolish part of me believed that if I kept paying, one day, I'd be seen as more than just a wallet. I pictured a future where they'd say thank you in a way that truly stuck. Then the bonus hit. Mid-year. We'd stopped a major fraud ring. My manager said, nice job, Max. HR said, direct deposit on Friday. I didn't post about it online. I moved a huge chunk to savings, another to a brokerage account I jokingly named Portugal. A private joke, a tab in my brain labeled someday. After dinner, I put on coffee while Mom rinsed plates. This is a family crisis, she whispered, the water running, trying to mask her words. Lena could be evicted. In April, she wasn't paying rent because she was in Tulum. I reminded her, the words tasting bitter. She was networking, Mom countered, as if networking meant infinity mimosas and pool floats shaped like swans. Lena appeared in the doorway, phone in hand. Max, listen. The deposit is it's a show of good faith. They see the funds, they chill. Dad turned up the TV volume again. It's 11 grand, not a kidney. It's 11 grand. I said, louder than I intended. The coffee machine choked and sputtered. Why is it always me? Mom's face went stiff. Because you can. That's why. God gives more to some so they can help. Something sour crawled up my throat. God didn't sign her lease. Lena's eyes flashed. I'm trying, okay? I had 2 interviews this week. You left one halfway through to take a call, I pointed out. She told me that story herself, like it was funny. And the other, you asked for remote from day one. That's normal now, she snapped. You're ancient. We're not doing this, Mom said, a warning. I thought we were done. We weren't. Monday, 7:18 a.m. I woke up to a text from Mom. We'll need the transfer by Friday. No question mark. Then from Lena. Can you just Z it in chunks if that's easier? Like 3K, 3K, 5K. A calendar invite popped up from Mom. Security deposit family meeting. I didn't accept it. At lunch, Dad called. Your mother's stressed. Be a good son. Being a good son isn't the same as being a quiet wallet, I told him. He sighed. We did a lot for you. Remember who co-signed your first car? You co-signed, and I paid every month on time, I retorted. You're cold lately, he said, like it was a medical diagnosis. At 3:06 p.m., Lena sent a screenshot from her building's portal, a big red, pending caption. This is literally my home. Then another, a selfie, shiny eyes, the lighting suspiciously tear-adjacent. Why you hate me? I put my phone face down and tried to work. The fraud dashboard blinked numbers, but all I could think of was Mom's phrase, deserves your bonus. As if I'd won a prize and forgotten it was hers to hand out. As if effort was communal, but rewards were not. By evening, the family group chat was a wildfire of opinions. Aunt Vera, we always help our own. Cousin Jade, Lena couch surfing would be humiliating for the family. Mom, Max loves us. He'll do the right thing. It felt like someone had rented a billboard with my name on it and plastered Grinch in bold letters. I drove to their apartment later to drop off a toolbox Dad wanted. I didn't want to go up. I did anyway. The building smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaner. Mom opened the door before I even knocked, like she'd been waiting, just watching the peephole. We can't sleep, she said, her voice low and weary. Just send it, and we'll all move on. Lena hovered behind her, phone still in hand. 11. It's specific because of the pet fee. They're being insane. You don't have a pet, I said, confused. She smiled, a guilty not guilty kind of smile. We're fostering first. I already got the bed and a tiny blue collar. She held up a bag. A tag dangled from it. It said Bailey in sparkly letters. He deserves a home. I stared at that tag. Something in me tightened, a wire snapping taut. I pictured Portugal in my brokerage account, my silly tab, my someday heir. I pictured giving it away for a leash no one had asked me about. No, I said again. Quiet. Final. Mom's face hardened in a way I'd only seen on strangers. You're not family today, Maxwell. You're a calculator. I nodded. Because that's exactly what it felt like. Then I turned and left. Because I knew the next thing out of my mouth would be something I couldn't take back. The first real hit came the next morning. Not money, but reputation. A screenshot landed in my messages. The family group chat, my name in it. Lena, Max says homelessness is a lesson. Aunt Vera, he's been different since he got that job. Dad, money changed him. Mom, pray for his heart. I didn't reply, but I took a screenshot of my own, transfers from the last 3 years. Line after line. $800 for car repair. $1,250 for deposit refill. $400 for interview suit. $2,000 credit card. Only this time, I sent it to Mom and Dad directly. No caption. Mom responded with a single bubble. We didn't ask for those. That was the moment. The trap. If I pay, I'm doing my duty. If I don't, I'm cruel. If I already paid, it never happened. By Wednesday, it wasn't just texts. It was pressure disguised as help. Aunt Vera offered to mediate. Cousin Jade suggested I do half now, half later. Dad said, take a loan against your bonus if you must. Lena posted a story with a quote. When people with plenty won't share, it's poverty of soul. The comments were little clapping hands emojis. I kept my head down, watching something inside me shift. From guilty, to tired, to finally, clear. Clarity is quiet. It shows up like a closed door that doesn't need slamming. Thursday night. Family dinner, take 2. I hadn't planned to go. Then Mom called and said, come, we need to settle this like adults. Her tone said, court date, not pasta. I brought a folder. Not to be dramatic. To be precise. When I walked in, the table was set, but no food was out. Dad stood by the window, rigid. Lena had brought backup. Her boyfriend, Tom, who once told me, credit scores are fake constructs. He nodded at me like we were teammates. We weren't. Mom gestured to the chairs. Let's sit. I put the folder down. Before we start, ground rules. No shouting, no scripture, no threats. Just facts. Dad scoffed. Who do you think you are, a judge? I think I'm a man who's paid enough to ask for silence, I said, my voice steady. Lena rolled her eyes. This is creepy, Max. Okay, Mom said, palms up, trying to smooth things over. Facts. I slid out the first sheet. A simple table. Dates, amounts, purposes. Last 3 years, I said, my gaze sweeping across their faces. Totals to $19,000 for $130 in transfers to Lena, plus another $3,600 in utilities and phone lines I covered when Dad's card glitched. Mom opened her mouth. I held up a hand. Second sheet. It was a printout from Lena's building website. I'd created a guest account just to read the actual notice. Not eviction, not even a final warning. They asked for a deposit increase of $2,500 because of 2 late payments. Not 11. Lena blinked. There's also the pet. Pet fees total $500 non-refundable, plus $30 a month, I said, cutting her off. New math still equals less than 11,000. Tom coughed, shifting nervously. You don't know their flexibility. You're right, I said, meeting his eyes. So I called them. Flexibility means you can pay in 2 parts. There's also a hardship form. I slid the form across the table. Mom's cheeks flushed. You went behind our backs. I went behind the billboard you made with my name on it. I shot back. Fact 4. I lifted my phone and read from a note. Group chat claims I said homelessness is a lesson. I didn't. Here's what I actually said to Lena. I turned the screen. Budgets are boundaries, not punishments. I paused. Corny? Yes. Cruel? No. Dad's jaw flexed. Is this about embarrassing us? It's about not being a bank you can rob with a sad face, I said, and my voice shook for the first time. Not with fear, but with the sheer weight of all the words I'd swallowed for years. I'm not doing it anymore. Lena tried a different angle. Soft, Max, I'm scared. They've been intense. I don't have anywhere else. You have options that start with phone calls you don't want to make, I told her, pointing to the hardship form. Option 1. Option 2. You sell the designer couch you financed. Option 3. You move to a smaller place. Option 4. You ask the man sitting next to you to contribute more than vibes. Tom lifted his hands in protest. I'm building a startup. So is your barber, from the looks of it, I said. Because sometimes, pettiness is a vitamin. Mom's voice sharpened. Enough. Your sister deserves your bonus. She's been through so much. You sit on money. Yes, Mom, I said, meeting her glare. I sit on money. Because I learned that when I stand on it, you pull the rug. Fact 5. I slid out the last page. A simple plan I'd written for myself on Sunday night, after the meatballs. Starting next month, I'm moving. New job lets me go remote. Rent is cheaper. It's time. Silence. Then a short, disbelieving laugh from Mom. Where? Across town. Lisbon, I said. And before you say that's dramatic, I've been saving for a long time. You just never asked about anything I wanted that wasn't an invoice. Lena squinted at me. You're not serious. I am. I laid my hands flat on the table so I wouldn't clench them. And I've made a decision. I will not transfer 11,000. I will not transfer 2,000. I will not transfer 30. I am not your cushion anymore. If you need help filling out a form, I'll help. If you need a budget, I'll sit with you. But I will not fund choices I didn't make. Dad's voice dropped into that warning tone I knew from childhood. Careful how you talk to your mother. Careful how you talk to your son, I said back, and the shock on his face told me he didn't expect me to have a spine. Mom stood up so fast her chair squealed. You're abandoning us. You keep using that word, I said. I think you mean you're not paying. Those are different. Lena slammed her palm on the table. So, you're fine with me getting kicked out? You won't be, I replied calmly. You'll fill the form. And if I don't, she shot back. Then you'll learn what rent means, I said. And there it was, the line. I heard how it sounded. Firm, not cruel. Boundaries always sound mean to people who benefited from your lack of them. Mom's eyes went glassy. I misraised you. You raised me to fix things, I said. I'm finally fixing the right one. Dad reached for the folder and pushed it back at me like a bad report card. Take your papers. This family doesn't run on receipts. Maybe it should, I said. I slid the folder into my bag, stood up, and felt that wire inside me finally stop vibrating. I didn't feel heroic. I just felt tired. And clear. On the way out, Lena called after me. You'll regret this when we're not talking. I turned. We haven't really been talking for years. We've been transacting. I left to the sound of Mom saying, We'll get a lawyer, like I'd stolen something. I hadn't. I just stopped giving. By the time I got home, they'd already drafted a new play, shock and awe. 19 texts. Be reasonable. We raised you. Wire it now, and we'll forget your tone. Aunt Vera chimed in with, you'll never find a wife with that heart. Tom added a thumbs down. Lena sent me her lease PDF with highlighter, like she was my manager. I typed one sentence, don't text again. Then I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, sat at my kitchen table, and opened the Portugal tab for the first time. Not as a joke, but as a door. People think decisions are big, dramatic speeches. Sometimes they're just quiet tasks, done in a row. I made coffee at 9 p.m. and opened 3 tabs. My bank, my broker, my credit cards. I froze every single card. Not because I was scared they'd take them, but because the habit of access had to end. I set new passwords and 2-factor authentication from a physical key. I disabled Apple Pay on every device. I logged out of family shared anything, Netflix, Prime, the cloud where 100 group photos lived. If that sounds cruel, imagine paying rent while someone borrows your login and then tells cousins you hate birthdays. I listed my couch, my bike, my second monitor, and the espresso machine I'd babied for 4 years. Cash only, I wrote. Pick up tonight or tomorrow morning. My apartment filled with strangers who said, great deal, and left me holding space where things used to be. Each goodbye felt lighter. I pulled out a folder I'd labeled Move, with tabs, Lease, Visa, SIM, Health. I'd made it 6 months ago in a burst of late-night daring, then tucked it away like a fantasy. Now it was a checklist. I booked a one-way flight for Tuesday. I messaged my manager. Formal note coming in the morning, but I'm going remote abroad. I will keep my hours. He replied with a thumbs up and a gif of a sardine can. Portugal is sardines, right? I laughed for the first time that night. Small, surprised mind. I called my bank's fraud line and put a voice password on my profile. No one can call in and cry and reset this, I told the agent. He said, happens more than you think. And I believed him. At 11:43 p.m., I opened the family chat to mute it and saw 50 new messages. The tone had shifted. Lena had gone from sweet to scorched. Max is abandoning us. Max has money and doesn't care. Max is punishing me because he's jealous I have a life. I almost replied with a photo of my empty living room. I didn't. I knew better. The goalpost would move. The scoreboard was rigged. Instead, I wrote privately to Mom and Dad. I am not discussing money by text again. If you need me for anything that doesn't involve my wallet, call after the weekend. Mom replied instantly, we have engaged counsel. Okay, I typed. Please have them email me. I created a filter. If sender contains at law, label noise. At midnight, I took out a small black notebook where I keep do it even if scared lists. I wrote, sell everything. Mail keys Monday. Cancel gym. Unlock phone for you. Backup photos. Block numbers if they escalate. Remember, I am allowed to have a life. I slept 3 hours. Woke at 4 a.m. to a silent apartment and the faint hum of the fridge, which I'd soon unplug. I made toast on a pan. Packed a suitcase with clothes I actually wear. Left the suit that fit me like a scolding. Took 2 books, my passport, the physical security key, the folder, and a Polaroid of me at the beach in the hat. At 6 a.m., my phone lit up like a slot machine. Missed calls stacked. 12, 28, 52, 92. By 7:12 a.m., for emails from a law office I didn't recognize, subject lines screaming demand and family duty, as if those words could conjure a judge into my kitchen. I opened one. It was a fake scare letter dressed in big words. Our client, your mother, asserts that she and her husband have a reasonable expectation of familial support in times of financial distress. Blah blah equitable reliance blah immediate transfer recommended to avoid reputational harm. It was nonsense. And it was so on brand. I moved them to the filter labeled noise. Not because I don't respect lawyers. Because I refuse to treat blackmail with letterhead as law. I turned off my US number and set up a new one for travel. Then I did something small that felt huge. I walked to the kitchen drawer with the spare keys that had multiplied like rabbits over the years. Mom's, Dad's, Lena's for when I need to borrow your blender. I put them in a Ziploc bag, wrote a note, returning access, and slid it through their mail slot on my way out. No drama, just boundaries in a baggie. By noon, my couch was gone. My bike was gone. The espresso machine had found a new home with a guy who said, I'm starting over too. We shook hands like 2 people who'd survived a storm. The last thing left was the TV. I left it. It had been a mirror more than a window these last few months anyway. At 3 p.m., I met my landlord, handed over a notice and a check for the last month. Short notice, he said, not unkind. I know, I said. Family stuff. He nodded in that universal way people do when they don't ask the details because they've had their own. Back home, I sat on the floor with a bowl of plain pasta and my laptop. I wrote a letter. Not to them. To myself at 22, who worked nights and thought love could be earned with transfers. You did your best. You were generous. Being used isn't generosity. It's silence. You are allowed to leave. I taped it inside the folder. At 5 p.m., another volley. Mom, the family is ashamed. Dad, this will have consequences. Lena, I hope Portugal hates you. A new number. This is Pastor Ed. Your mother is distraught. I typed one line to the group chat, then muted it for a year. I'm not available for this. Then I called an Uber to the airport hotel because my apartment felt like a ghost had already moved in. At the hotel, I stood underwater, so hot it erased thought. Afterward, I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. It wasn't peace. Exactly. It was a blank space where panic could have been and wasn't. I slept. No dreams. Woke at 2 a.m. to an email from my manager. Approved. Work from Lisbon. Send address when stable. Attached was a document titled Global Work Tips. Bullet 1. Time zones are boundaries. I like that. At 5 a.m., I checked in for my flight. I took a photo of my empty key ring. Sent it to myself. Caption, room for new. On the way to the airport, the driver asked, business or vacation? Neither, I said. Life. He smiled like he'd heard that before. Security, gate, a coffee. A text from an unknown number. Think of family reputation. Delete. Another. You will regret this. Maybe I would. Regret is a long game. So is decay. I chose the one where I could breathe. When the plane lifted, I looked down at the grid of my city, the small rectangle of my old block, the river that looked like tin foil. I didn't cry. My eyes stung, and then cleared. Somewhere over the ocean, I opened my laptop and built a budget in euros. Line items that started with me. Rent I could afford. Groceries that didn't include guilt. A line for sardines, as a joke to send my manager. A line called yes. Landing felt like stepping into a different frequency. The signs were in a language I was learning. The air smelled like coffee and sea. I caught the metro with a small suitcase and a bigger exhale. At the short-term rental, the host handed me keys on a ring with a tiny tile rooster. Welcome, she said. Thank you, I said, and minted in a way I hadn't minted in a long time. I put my folder on the table, opened my laptop, and sent one email to Mom and Dad with the subject, boundaries. In a single paragraph, I will not be sending money now or in the future. I am available for non-financial conversations after we have all cooled off. If you or Lena want help filling out actual forms, I can do that over video next week. If you send threats, group sermons, or lawyers, I will block. I love you from a distance that keeps me safe. Then I hit send, closed the lid, and went outside. The street was narrow and bright. Someone, somewhere laughed. Not at me, just laughed. I bought a pastel de nata and ate it leaning against the sun-warmed wall. It tasted like something ordinary and kind. I didn't know what came next, but I knew it would be mine. A month later, my mornings are quiet. I run by the river. I work in a small room with a big window. I buy fruit from the lady who gives me an extra orange for luck. At night, I read. Sometimes I take the long tram, for no reason except the sound of it. The message is slowed. People tire of outrage when it doesn't feed them. Mom sent 2 paragraphs about forgiveness that didn't include the words sorry, and then silence. Dad forwarded an article about filial piety, with no comment. Lena sent a photo of a smaller apartment, and below it, a question mark. I replied, proud of you. Need help with the form? We filled it out on a call. 20 minutes. No money. She cried at the end. Not because I paid, but because I didn't hang up. There's an empty space where panic used to be. I keep it empty on purpose. I learned that boundaries aren't walls. They're doors you lock at night, so you can sleep. I walk past a shop window some days and catch my reflection. Same face, different posture. Less braced. If you need a moral, here's mine. Simple and blunt, like a good budget line. I am not a bank. I am a person. Love is not a direct debit. Family is not a subscription you can charge without consent. Your sister deserves your bonus, Mom said. My answer is still no. And now, finally, I am living a life where no is not a fight. It's a fact. What about you? Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family, even when it felt like the hardest thing you'd ever do? Tell me in the comments below. I'd really love to hear your experiences.